Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to TrepTalks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders and ask them questions about their business stories and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Anthony Coussa to the show. Anthony is the founder of DadBod Apparel. DadBod Apparel is a family owned and operated lifestyle brand based out of Northern California, focused on redefining the dad bod stereotype. The company promotes the idea that parents, particularly fathers, can maintain fitness, fashion, and health while embracing parenthood. Their mission emphasizes setting a positive example for children through an active and stylish lifestyle, challenging the notion that dads must sacrifice their physical health or sense of style. And today I'm going to ask Anthony a few questions about his entrepreneur journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to grow his business. Now, before we dive into this interview, if you enjoy this content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And for more interviews like this, please visit treptalks.com. And with that, Anthony, welcome. And thank you so much for joining me today at Trep Talks. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing introduction. You pretty much nailed our mission, what we are, who we're about, everything, all in a good like 30-second pitch. So nicely done.
I would like to take the full credit for it, but these days you have ChatGPT and other AIs that
Yeah.
that,
Hell
that
yeah.
definitely support.
Yeah.
So, very curious to know about your business. When did you start it? What were you doing before? How did you get into entrepreneurship, and how did you kind of start this business?
Yeah, no problem. So actually I kind of stumbled upon this, I don't want to say by accident, but the idea behind it came when we were expecting our firstborn, our son. It took my wife and I a while to get pregnant with our firstborn. So when we found out we were pregnant, super excited. I've always been into fitness and working out. And when I started telling friends of mine that we were pregnant, they all gave me a hard time and started telling me, don't worry about your diet, don't worry about working out, and start working on your dad bod. And being in like the fitness industry or the fitness world at the time, there's a lot of athleisure brands for that. And so, I was like, there's got to be a market out there for dads who want to stay fit, who want to stay active, and don't want the cheesy shirts that you never wear. You might take a picture in them or wear them around Disneyland, but you're never going to actually wear them on a day-to-day basis. And so that was kind of the idea of marrying the two, athleisure with being a dad and making designs and clothing that doesn't strike you immediately as, look at me, I'm a dad. But once you kind of read deeper, or you look at it closer, you're like, oh, damn, that's for dads or that's for parents. And so we launched the brand pretty much right when my son was born. And fortunately, we had orders the first day. People were waiting for this stuff to come out, and we've kind of just grown from there.
Wow, I mean, it's I guess there's dads out there, and this almost sounds like a lifestyle. Did you kind of find the community out there right away, or did you have to kind of sell this idea in the market?
Yeah, so my idea before I even started the brand was to try to get awareness. And so before Instagram and ads and paid ads are what they are now, I would literally spend hours a day on Instagram going through the different hashtags and finding people that were in either dad bod, parents, dad life, whatever you want to call the different hashtags, and just going through their profiles and liking and commenting. And so my idea was nobody knows we exist, so I have to make them know we exist. And so I tried to build a little bit of a following prior to launching. And we're kind of promoting the launch date of this is when we're going to go live. So that way I had at least a base of people who knew who we were prior to going live. And then once we did, we just, had a handful of orders day one. And then my idea back then, and same thing now, is we try to get orders out as quickly as possible, typically within a day, 2 days max. The idea behind it was we were running out of our house. And the idea was, when you order something as a consumer, you may see something, you're excited about it. And then if it shows up a couple days later, you're even more excited. You're more inclined to throw it on, excuse me, throw it on, wear it immediately. Plus, you have those people out there marketing for you, just wearing your apparel faster. So, just creating an overall positive consumer experience was the initial goal, and it's still today. My wife and I would sit, I'd get home from work, we'd pack orders, we'd write a thank you note in every order. We still do that to this day. We write thank you on every packing slip, and then try to get it out the door again within 24, 48 hours. So that way people got their items, within a few days of ordering it.
So a business like this, is this really, I mean, I would want you to share a little bit more about the products that you have.
Sure.
Is there some sort of an innovation uh, in the material itself, or is it purely an exercise in building a brand around the lifestyle that you're creating?
So, I mean, with apparel specifically, you can be innovative with the material. It's harder to do. We've obviously kind of grown and evolved as time has progressed and try to improve some of our materials, what we use, our hats, whatever the case may be. But in terms of coming up with a new material or a new cut that's never been done is very hard to do. And so I would say in apparel specifically, the most important thing that I've always gone by is building a brand, building a community, focusing on the people who make you what you are. And so without them, without your brand, without your identity, you have nothing. And so, I've been, pitched different ideas, different things that are not on brand, the things that are kind of go against our fabric in terms of, pun intended. But that goes against like what we stand for in terms of being a brand aimed at parents promoting a healthy, active lifestyle that are more towing that line with corny or cheesy or embracing the dad bod. And we've never done it because, again, at the end of the day, like we might sell some shirts, we might sell some hats, but in my opinion, it just degrades from our brand identity.
For sure. Um, when you started out, what kind of investment went into the business? How many, like, did you start with a few styles first? Can you talk a little bit about the initial, going from the idea to actually launching your business?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the biggest misconception is that you need a lot of money to start a business or to start a brand. You don't. And especially in today's day and age with social media, you really don't need much at all. I have helped a number of entrepreneurs, a number of people who are trying to get into apparel, even dads trying to get into the dad space, and given them advice. For us, we started with really three designs or two designs, our logo and then the dumbbells, deadlifts, and diapers. And so for us, we just started with those two. We put them on a few different shirts, put them on a few different hats. And what I tell people who are just starting out is find someone local who can do the screen printing or who can do the embroidery or whatever you want to do instead of going overseas immediately and test the market. You're never going to call your own kid ugly. Just like you'll never think your brand is stupid or your idea is stupid, but that doesn't mean that the mass audience out there doesn't agree with you. So, for me, I wanted to get it out there, see if there was actually people who wanted to buy it and see if there was actually a market for it. And then from there you grow. So it may cost you a little bit more on the front end in terms of your cost per shirt or your cost per hat, but you don't have to put that initial investment of thousands of dollars in meeting MOQs to get, a custom hoodie made or a custom shirt made. Just find some blank and find a local screen printer or a local embroiderer to do it. Spend a few more dollars to get them done, but at least you can test the market first.
Hmm. And you mentioned that you did the testing. You built a small community before through social media, and then you tested on that community. Did you really just direct them to your website? How did you kind of get your first orders?
Yeah, I mean, again, Instagram is very different than it is now.
Hmm.
So there was a lot more authentic and organic engagement. And so we were able to, we'd post something on our social media, people would go to our website and buy directly. It was just me at the time. And I knew nothing about, you know, websites, knew nothing about building websites, about sending email marketing, about email flows. Ads were kind of just coming on at that time. So we weren't running any ads. So it was really just organic and people seeing our posts on Instagram or on Facebook and going directly to the website. And we did that for about a year and a half before we actually started running paid ads. And then once we did, again, it's very different than it is now. It just kind of helped to grow the brand.
Now, in terms of competition, I mean, now in the environment that we are in today, where e-commerce is basically turnkey, right? Like anybody who wants to create a product or, from going from idea to a product is relatively easy because, you have the processes, you have the markets where you can easily source from. So, I mean, the process has become much easier. Do you find that there are a lot more competitors, even in the dad bod, like in a similar, creating similar lifestyle apparel brands space? Or is it that now you have a certain brand recognition in the market, and so you don't really worry about it?
I mean, both. There's definitely competition. There's brands that's brought up all the time. There's a few that have stood the test of time or that are growing at a substantial rate. So yeah, there's competition. When we started, there was competition even back then. Those brands have kind of fizzled out as the years go on, but you're going to always see new brands come up. You're going to see brands come and go. And then you're going to see new entries into the market regardless. So there's definitely competition. There's also, I mean, there's large brands that aren't necessarily like brands for parents that have a line specific for parents, right? So you may have, I mean, not that they have it, but you may have like a Nike
Hmm.
that isn't necessarily for parents, but they have shirts or they have items out there that are geared towards parents. So,
In terms of distribution, um, are you primarily selling through your website? Are you also targeting other like retail stores where you can get a bigger distribution? Because I mean, you've created this brand, and I'm sure some retailers in similar spaces would be interested.
yeah, so primarily we're D2C, direct to consumer. We
Okay.
are on Amazon, and then we do have our apparel in a number of boutique shops around the country. So we do have a lot of smaller shops that carry our stuff in their stores, but our primary channel is direct to consumer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you were starting a similar business today. I mean, of course, now you've learned about e-commerce a lot more. What would you Where would you start? Like, would you still start with building a community first through social or other means, or would you start in a different place?
I mean, yeah, I think in terms of the actual initial start, I would still do the same thing. Your community is what's going to drive you. It's what makes you. You know, if you don't have a community, you don't have a brand, you don't have a business. It doesn't matter what company you are. Every company, every brand has a community. So I think that the important thing is also identifying who your target customer is, who your target audience is, and really honing in on them. I think a lot of businesses, a lot of brands make the mistake of trying to get everybody. And what I tell my friends, what I tell people is, don't get me wrong, we'll sell to anybody. We are for anybody, but our target is those parents who are into fitness and who are into kind of bettering themselves. If you're your typical dad bod, or if you're not into sports and it's just having a beer, watching TV, nothing wrong with that, but that is not who we're targeting or who we're going after.
A big part of your brand is, I guess, the designs that you're putting out, right? Do
Yeah,
you do you have in-house designers that are coming up with new styles all the time? Are you working with like contractors? How does that process work?
you're talking to them. So
Okay.
um, yeah, a lot of this stuff is just what goes on in this head of mine. So I don't know what I don't know. I kind of come up with things that I think resonate with our audience that I like, that I would wear. And then we kind of make up some stuff, use Canva to mock up some designs, and I send them over to my screen printers to put to ink. So I mean, we're still a very small family-owned shop. We do most everything by ourselves. ran out of Northern California, so all the shipping comes from Northern California through our warehouse, and it's not a big operation. It's just a few of us, my wife, myself, you know, good friend of mine who I consider family, and that's about it. So we do a lot of the work ourselves.
And do you, and this is a full-time endeavor for you, right? Or is it like a side hustle?
It's side hustle turned main hustle is the best way of
Okay.
putting it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it seems like it's gained a lot of traction. Um, in terms of growth, well, in terms of let's talk about marketing. Can you share a little bit about your marketing, how it has evolved? Are you still relying mostly on organic, like, SEO and social engagement, or are you doing paid advertisement as well?
Yeah, so unfortunately, with the current landscape of how social media is, we are reliant on paid ads. We aren't as reliant on organic as we were when we first started. Obviously SEO is a big part of us. Same with Meta, Amazon. So it's evolved from where we felt, I mean, we have our emails, we have our flows built out on our emails, but in terms of originally where I can post something on our social media with less than 10,000 followers and feel confident that half of them are going to see it and engage, those days aren't really here anymore. So we don't have that same level of organic engagement like we used to.
Yeah, social has become so competitive because these days now it's almost like you need Hollywood level storytelling and production to get
Yeah,
traction.
and the way that they've also changed, I think they want you to pay to play. So, it's one of those things where it's like you almost have to spend money to make money, which is kind of a nature of the beast, but that's the current landscape.
In your advertisement, have you been able to achieve the right ROI in terms of like ad spend versus profitability? Because I hear like even advertising is very challenging now.
It is, and it's an ever-changing target as well. So that's a loaded question. And it depends on the day you ask me, to be honest with you. So, some days are great, other days are not. And it's ever evolving. So it's just trying to keep a good pulse on that specifically.
In terms of markets that you're selling in, are you primarily in the US or North America? Are you selling overseas as well?
We're primarily in the US. We do sell overseas. We've shipped to a number of different countries, which is always like very cool to see and very cool to look at the label and be like, oh, this is going to Sweden, this is going to Indonesia, this is going to Asia. Like it's cool to see that, but for the most part, we are primarily in Northern America and the US.
Awesome. Now, in terms of your future vision for the business, do you want to just continue to um, have the same trajectory, come up with new styles like every season and continue to build this? Or do you see your business evolving into like new channels, new categories? How do you see your future vision for your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously the goal is growth every year to be growing at least by a certain percentage. As you grow larger, that percentage is harder and harder to maintain or to have the same growth that you did when you were first starting out. We have tested and tried to figure out different product lines, different categories to enter into. What we have found is that our audience really resonates with our apparel, with the designs, with the bread and butter that got us to where we are right now. So that's not to say that we wouldn't come out with a bag or something else down the road, but where when we've tested out different channels in different markets, it isn't the same level of acceptance as like our apparel is.
In terms of warehousing and logistics, I know you mentioned that you have a smaller operation and you're pretty much doing everything on your own. And you also mentioned that you ship relatively faster. I see on your website that you offer free shipping at a certain threshold, I guess. Can you talk a little bit about your shipping strategy? Do you try to eat some of the cost Because I know consumers these days prefer free shipping. And do you find that free shipping offer kind of bumps the average order value for you?
That's the goal, and that's the idea behind why we offer it and offer it at a certain threshold is to try to get the AOV higher, the average order value higher. So that is the end goal. But at the same time, our mentality with shipping is pretty straightforward. It's just try to get the orders out as quickly as we can. So we do work very hard and very diligently to get our packages out as soon as possible, just again to just better the whole consumer experience.
Awesome. In every entrepreneur journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. What has been some big learning experience for you where you said, it was a big failure or something? What did you learn? What can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
I'd say like there's probably a couple that were good learning experiences. The first one is making sure that you check your IP, your intellectual property. Just because you think a design is different or you think the design doesn't necessarily, look the same, doesn't mean that it's not infringing. And so um, we've had experiences with that, and I learned a lot the first time, going through it again right now. But that's something that you really want to vet out before you even launch a brand or launch a business is with your idea, with your name, with anything, is it confusingly similar to anything else that's out there? Um, and the second thing is, you want to learn to walk before you run. So I think a lot of brands, myself included, may sell a lot of a certain SKU or may sell a lot of something and then think like that's it, we made it, and place massive overseas orders, and then you're sitting on inventory that doesn't move as quickly as you thought. So just scaling smartly is the best way that I could put it is, don't necessarily just because you had a good month think that that's it. The ship has landed and just spend all your money on product.
Did you run into any IP issues?
I have, yeah.
Any more details?
One of them I can't really get into. The first one was just, again, I thought that, with a trademark that if your design looks different, that's it, and it's
Mhm.
not. It depends on the trademark. So that was a good learning lesson is just because your design is different, it doesn't mean that you're in the clear that you're not infringing.
By the way, I know you mentioned that initially you should try to test your or have something manufactured locally just to test the market. Um, I'm assuming now you have a much more better pricing structure or cost structure in your manufacturing or sourcing. Are you having your product sourced overseas, or is it still in the United States?
It's a blend of both. So a lot of the stuff that we have that is fully custom made is done overseas. The items that are, um, printed or standard embroidery, we do locally. I've always believed in supporting local businesses as well. So as much as we can, we try to keep things local and help other family-owned businesses as well.
Awesome. Uh, Now I'm going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions and you have to answer them maybe in a word or a sentence or so. So
Okay.
the first one is one book recommendation for entrepreneurs and why?
Tipping point. And I think just because it helps kind of get a lot of stories from different brands that are household names, and you kind of get a sense of what happened, why all of a sudden they went from 0 to 100, what that tipping point was.
Awesome. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
Oh, I mean, obviously AI is everywhere. Um, and I think that that is a technology that's obviously is going to be here to stay. Where it goes, how far it goes, no one really knows at this point. I think there's aspects of it that are exciting that I use that I think are helpful, and there's also aspects that I think are scary. So it's just I'm interested to see with AI kind of where it goes, what direction, and you know how much it's used and to what benefit.
Yeah, it is definitely a bit scary thinking 50 years down the road with AI and robotics, like our humans are even going to be relevant. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I saw a video literally last night of the Tesla robot dancing, and it looks like a human. It looks like iRobot, like the movie. It's insane. So, when you see something like that, you're like, oof, what is the future going to look like?
yeah, yeah. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
I mean, there's a lot of plugins on we're on Shopify. There's a lot of plugins on Shopify that help with productivity, with in terms of inventory management, putting in POs, back in stock notifications, all those sort of things. So, I mean, I'd say that again, not from the jump, like not as soon as you launch, but as you start to grow, things like getting consumers emails, growing your email list, getting them to sign up for products that are out of stock so that way they can get blasted once you restock an item. Those kind of things just kind of help drive sales and help overall efficiency.
A startup or another startup or business that you think is currently doing great things?
Um, that's a tough one.
Any
You know, I'm
any
not, I'm not, what's that?
any do you check out any other business websites that you are fond of?
I mean, I keep a pulse on the market and on just the apparel space in general. I've seen a number of different brands that are popping up that are doing well that help elevate this space in general. I think that anything like that is beneficial for the brand and for the space in general. So,
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
I mean, I have a friend that has been kind of, I don't want to say instrumental, but very, he was very receptive when I first started. He owns Tactical Baby Gear. They're kind
Yeah.
of a military style diaper bag. And Beeve is the owner. And when I was just starting, I had no followers, no brand, nothing. And he was always receptive to pick up my phone, call, or answer any questions I had. And so that always resonated with me that he would be willing to take his time out, being established to talk to someone who's trying to learn and come up. So, not that I'm on the same level in any regard, but I try to do that as well for anybody that has ideas or wants to start something.
Yeah, Beef Brody, right? I have interviewed
Yeah.
him before. Yeah, he's a very
Oh,
very
yeah.
nice
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
very nice guy. Yeah, yeah,
He's a great guy. Great
yeah.
guy.
Final question: best business advice that you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I think what I said at the beginning, don't, it's very easy, especially for entrepreneurs, to just go all in and think it's all or nothing. And I think that's like kind of the misconception that other entrepreneurs give out there is like if you're not fully vested, you're going to fail. For you to make something successful, you have to be fully vested, all in, bet the mortgage, bet everything. And that's just foolish. I think that there can be a level of calculated risk that you can take. But at the same time, you know, walk before you run and test your idea, test your market before you really bet the mortgage on it. So, I think that that's kind of the blessing and the curse of this industry is you see a lot of the glitz and glamour of entrepreneurship and people think that's what it is and it's not. If you talk to most entrepreneurs, it is grinding all the time. You are wearing every hat, you're doing everything, and the flashy cars, the sitting on the beach doing nothing and making like that's the very few. It's the minority. So I think that's the curse of what some people put out there, and that's what people think. And I think the reality of it is like you got to be prepared to work. It's the hardest job I've ever done. It's the most I've ever worked. And I think that if you talk to most entrepreneurs, they say the same thing.
That is so true, right? Entrepreneurship is so difficult. And I think product-based entrepreneurship is even more challenging because, there's so many costs involved.
Hmm.
Um, and if somebody has a job, if you have a full-time job, don't give that up. Like start the idea as a side hustle first.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Anthony. Those were all the questions that I had. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your business strategies, lessons, failures. If anybody wants to check out your products, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, our website's dadbodapparel.com. Our social media is dadbod_supply co. That's Instagram. So either of those are the best channels to check out our apparel or our Instagram, where we preview a lot of things that are coming or highlight other dads or moms in the space. And then if you have any questions or anything, you can email us or send us a DM. Again, I'm the one responding, so we respond or I respond pretty quickly.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you so much again. Really appreciate your time and wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.